Oh, hey, are we doing...
Get a job. No.
Are we doing... I have an actual question. Are we doing we're doing the Coen Brothers, right?
Abe, I'm so glad. Wow, same brain. I wanted to start the show with that open question, which, implies that neither of us knows, which is bad.
I wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think, let's just get him in here. That's Abe Epperson. I'm Michael Swaim. This is a very special ex post facto episode of Coen Brothers. And ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest, Mr. Daniel O'Brien.
Hello, it's me. Often thought of as the third Coen Brothers brother. It's so great to finally be here.
I'm so glad to finally get you on.
Maybe. Have we had a guest before?
I don't think on this show.
No,
but
I
we've
don't
had
think
guests
we have.
before,
Wow.
Swim. It hasn't just been me in a hat.
And I gave it up so casually. We should have been harder to get. But anyway, I guess it doesn't really count because it's just one Coen brother, you know? We'll toss you that bone. But I want Dan to be able to weigh in on this question too, for his pleasure and comfort. We normally on this show do a format that's diegesis, which is a run through of the plot beat by beat, pedagogy, which is all of our actual thoughts, and then howdy do that, which is like trivia and behind the scenes information. Is that too structured for the conversation you want to have, or should we try and emulate that?
It might be too structured for me. I feel like I would like to have been better prepared for that. Obviously, I know the show, but I think we should let the listeners know that I, like a thirsty fanboy, came to you with this pitch because I love the Coen brothers like you both do. I think probably because of you I like them, and I thought it was not to pit brother against brother because that's not super intriguing to me. Because I don't think it is like
not a civil war buff.
It's not a fun way to talk about art, I don't think. But we're in such a unique opportunity because the Coen brothers have been a writing, directing, and quietly editing duo for most of their career, and then within the last 5 or 6 years or so, one split off to do a solo project, the Macbeth adaptation with Denzel Washington, and the other just had his first solo release, Drive Away Dolls. And it seemed like you don't get too many opportunities, none that I can think of, in movies where you have a duo that's so powerfully known as a duo and putting out such great work consistently, and then they split, and then you have the opportunity to look at the two works side by side and try to not to figure out which one is better. But I mean, I don't know if your guys' brains are shaped the same way that mine is, but even though I understand humans are nuanced, I like to think in binary terms often and think like, oh, it's a directing and writing duo.
Human nature.
One of them does 50% of it spread out in some way, and the other one does the other 50%. And maybe these two movies will help me figure out which brother does which half, who contributes what. I don't think we can figure that out, but I figured you guys would be the ones to help me.
But yeah, it's a great thesis. It's an electrifying conversation. So Abe, if it's okay with you, we'll just chat.
Yeah. No, Daniel Jazz O'Brien, as he's known.
I'll only do this real quick. Let's just one word answer. Paul or John is the big example, I think. John for me.
Paul.
I knew that. I think we
discussed
that. John or Paul? We're talking popes now.
Yeah, I know. Who's my favorite pope? They're
all so good.
You can say
John.
I don't give a shit about the Beatles,
No, I
and
think
we
John.
can move on.
I think John.
John. Yeah, he's angrier. And then my other Beatles is Bare Naked Ladies, and they split up because one of the main dudes, Stephen Page, had a coke problem and some issues with his kids and became an asshole by all accounts, and then split off and started doing solo stuff that still has the exact like nectar of why I came to BNL and grew to love them. And the other guy, Ed Robertson, just does like really cute raps, like like the one that got big.
Yeah.
And It's very disappointing to find out the mean guy is the
I know,
talented
doesn't that suck? Because I'm split that same way, and like we saw the new, like the current version of Bare Naked Ladies, which is the band minus Stephen Page.
Yeah.
And they're still doing like all of the BNL songs that you know and love. And when it comes to the songs that like require Stephen Page's signature belt, they try to do it and they just can't. So they're down like his singing chops.
It's one of the most unique voices in rock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then it's not just the singing chops. When you listen to Stephen Page's solo work, it fucking rips. It's awesome. I hate to say it.
All right. Back to the movie. I delayed some pain because here comes, I think, something we need to get out of the way. This was not good, right? Do we all agree with that? And then we can discuss what that says about each brother.
I wrote down drive away, yikes.
Yeah. Smart.
I wrote drive them away from theaters.
I didn't do anything clever. I just texted you while I was watching it by myself some Tuesday morning, and I was like, guys, I got bad news. I think this might be bad.
Come in here,
you
fellas.
did say that.
I think it's bad.
It feels like a Coen Brothers sketch.
Here's what's interesting. Right. Sometimes it really feels like it's trying to be Fargo. There's the talking scene with the two goons where you're like, you are Steve Buscemi right now. You are Peter Stormare right now.
Yeah.
But at most times, the closest I could connect it to is Raising Arizona. And like Dan said, I wish I could know. There's no way to know if it's real, but I'm like, does that mean Raising Arizona was more of Ethan's vibe? 2 points is not really enough to make a graph that is sensible, but it just makes me wonder if live action cartoon is like Ethan's jam that he loves. Cause this really felt, if anything, like Lady Killers, Raising Arizona, maybe Intolerable Cruelty, but that's kind of a stretch. That's more like a screwball.
The closest thing it reminded me of, and this is not going to be super helpful for our conversation or our listeners, is Ethan Coen years ago, and he was the one who did this one. He put out a book of stories called Gates of Eden. It's just like his short stories, and some of them are like they play like mini chunks of screenplay, and it's fantastic. It's a phenomenal piece. It's so funny. It's so great, and it really feels like Ethan Coen is someone who can just very quickly and easily, I'm sure I'm oversimplifying things, very quickly and easily generate the idea of a Coen Brothers movie like it's nothing to him. Because this book is just like, they're funny short stories and short scenes on their own, and they also have that like unmistakable feel of a Coen Brothers thing. And you could really get the idea that like, this is just completely me projecting, that the brothers would get into a room and they would each pitch each other ideas, and they would land on the thing they liked and start to develop that. And 10 of those ideas that they scrapped, Ethan is just like, I'm going to put these somewhere. I'm going to put these half thought out shells of ideas that weren't quite enough to make a Coen Brothers movie, and I'm going to put them in a book as short stories because I don't want to throw away these kernels that I think were good. Sure. That is what I felt like Drive Away Dolls was, where it's got a whole lot of the ingredients for a classic, very good Coen Brothers movie, but it's missing the other Coen brother. I don't know.
It's kind of like you said, it's analogous to the caricature done by like a guy on the boardwalk by the beach. It's of a Coen Brothers movie, or maybe a season of Fargo, like season 9, where you're like, they're still doing Fargo. And I do think we need to point out that it's co-written by Trisha Cook, Ethan Coen's wife. So whether or not you like it or dislike it, I'm not trying to throw shade on her as an artist, but it does match like a Swept Away situation, or I don't know if he felt beholden to do it. The only thing that's interesting on a private note level is that it's, super queer themes, like lots of lesbian hooking up and and Trisha Cook identifies as lesbian and queer, and they have like a non-traditional marriage where they both have partners outside the marriage. So I only mention that because it ties so directly into the themes of the thing, and that they're proudly public about it, so it's not hot goss. I will. Yeah, go ahead.
I like that whole. I love the queer themes because that's also very refreshing for the Coen brothers. I think broadly
normalizes gay sex on film very well. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, as is almost always the case when you like filmmaker or a writer or any kind of artist for a very long time, and they get older and you get older. There's always a part of me that is like, what's going to happen if someone ever interviews the Coens about cancel culture or about pronouns? Because there's always a chance.
Don't ruin this shit, guys.
When it's someone older that they're going to have the kind of ideas and views that you hate, that you just sort of have to throw up your hands and say, like, that's what happens. They're from that generation. And
don't Seinfeld this.
Right.
Here we go.
And it's refreshing and nice that's not like a landmine conversation that you have to have with at least Ethan Coen, certainly, that they're going to have the same views that I've decided are the good guy, the protagonist of the world, progressive views.
Can I just quickly say, the one that hurts me the most? Ricky Gervais. I thought he was really sharp. Yeah, I really was a big fan. And now he basically jokes about cancel culture, and we've parted ways.
I think I had like for years I was doing the good like progressive liberal thing where like some old formerly beloved celebrity would say the wrong thing, and I would just be like, all right, I can't support this person anymore. I can't. I don't like them. And then a few years ago, someone asked the late Norm Macdonald in an interview what he thought about cancel culture, and at that point, and he said the wrong thing. I think his stance since evolved, but at the time he made headlines for saying the wrong thing, and I couldn't be a progressive liberal at that time. I think at that time my reaction was, why don't we just fucking stop asking 65-year-old white men what they think about cancel culture?
Right.
We're just trying to generate headlines.
Right. Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
At best, they will surprise you. At worst or most average, you know what you're going to get, and then it's just going to just snowball into a terrible thing. And also, like, why should we care what Ted Danson thinks about cancel culture? Why? Just let him.
Ted, no, not Becker. You can't ruin Becker for me.
You can't cancel Becker.
He was the last cool guy who smoked.
That was the point of the show, right?
Yeah, he was a doctor who smoked and fucked, I think.
Hell yeah.
That's all it was. Yeah. That's all it needed.
That's all that Becker had to offer.
Although I guess it's not my place to say, but here I go. I'm the wild card. It did seem, and by definition, like, she's a queer artist writing her experience. I identify as queer for various reasons, and like my personal history. So I guess I can say, fuck yeah. All right, I talked myself into it. It feels like the main thing that they know about lesbians is only just the fact that a lesbian is a person who has sex with women. It's like it's like a fantasy world. And maybe this is true, because that's what I mean is I'm not steeped in lesbian culture, but everyone hooks up indiscriminately with everyone in this movie in almost a magical Raising Arizona way. Yeah. Like, everywhere they go, there's 50 lesbians passing each other around who are totally down, except Marion, who's the stick in the mud character. Right. And even she is like, yeah, I'll make out with my best friend.
I do think you're probably right. I trust your experience over my own. And I think if this would be less of a glaring problem if there were more representation in queer stories broadly. For me, I was watching it thinking this has a lot of flaws as a Coen Brothers movie, but if you're starting with the idea that like this is a coming of age sex romp that happens
like
to
lesbian sex comedy,
road trip sex comedy. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. We've seen a million versions of the heteronormative road trip sex comedy, and we don't balk at the logic of people hooking up constantly. We don't think it's crazy that someone that
on Euro trip,
Sean William Scott in Road Trip ends up getting a very sexual prostate exam just in the middle of their road trip story.
All right, you're right. Fuck me, I shouldn't have said it. Let's move on.
No.
No. How'd you guys like Curly? Because I feel like the most on the nose Coen guy, and he was also the only character to actually like that bit still works on me. The deadpan,
he also
no voice.
had the best line.
Who's going to help
anybody
Curly?
save
Curly?
It's the best.
That's
so
just
good.
Such a good joke.
Because it's also like, to me, it's very, very Coen that beating a guy to unconsciousness is physically very difficult. And he's injured to the point that he can't move now for days.
Yeah.
That is very realistic. And to mine that for humor is super Coen-y.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like the kind of stuff where it feels like local flavor, but it might also just be completely nonsensical. Like his name is Curly and it says Curly on his shirt. And when the girls first meet him, our protagonists meet him, they call him Curly and he says, "Don't call me Curly." I'm like, "Isn't your name Curly?" And he's like, "Yeah, but my friends call me Curly. We haven't met." And that's
It's too familiar.
Okay. And that's like that quirky Coen Brothers dialogue where everything seems a little bit like you're in a false universe, but I'm still like very tickled by it. I think because it's just done to tickle fucking writers, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, like just kind of to go back a little bit in our conversation about like what they kind of accomplish, or like this is the first like line in the sand, I would say, for me, is that it's clear that Ethan is a lot of the, I mean, we're basing it off of one movie. Tragedy of Macbeth is a tragedy. It doesn't mean that Joel Coen can't do comedy. Obviously he can. But it does seem like when left to their devices, Ethan Coen is much more in the vein of like, I want to be pitching these chaotic jokes. And it makes me think that like they're kind of like, when we look at the relationship, they're kind of both dogs on leashes that are holding each other's leash, like it left to their own devices, they go in these directions. And obviously we can see it in the movies that they've made so far.
It becomes exaggerated somewhat in that
but
direction.
Like there's so many lines in this that even though I would say on par, like it doesn't feel funny because it kind of feels forced. And you guys know comedy. You guys are comedy doctors. Mm-hmm. And like it's tough to be serious. Like it's tough to force jokes all the time. If you're like, yeah, you have to like kind of Rolodex it in a certain way, right? But there are standalone just phrases in this that I'm just like, oh, well, that's fucking fantastic. Like slapping ham there on the veranda.
Right.
There's a lot that I wrote down. That I
wrote down, like, you wouldn't know a wet cement if it bit you in the ass, and the person responds, "And you would?" That's pretty good.
I like that. What was he also? There's more to that. That whole thing was good. But I also liked over the phone with whoever the mysterious boss that the goons are all reporting into. "I am unhappy. I understand that you're unhappy, sir." Damn right I am. Like, that's low key, very Coen-y. In a mundane way, but then on the other hand, because I don't think we've really narrowed in on any of the really bad stuff, it's amazing, it's mind-blowing to me to imagine Ethan Coen waking up in bed next to his wife and being like, "Honey, when Flint the goon gets knocked over, the little yappy dog could hump him in the butt." That's good, right?
That's good, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene where a trash can lid gets thrown off screen, and you have the sound effect of a cat getting hit from like cartoons.
The exact moment I knew I was in trouble, by the way.
That kind of thing where like anytime any sitcom or old movie or cartoon show where like something gets thrown off screen and you hear like pottery break and the sound of a single cat screech, that like a long dead cat that's been reused as a sound effect for decades. That happened in this movie in the present from a Coen brother. And
right.
Same as you, I was like, oh no, this might be the moment that I had the first time I saw Attack of the Clones, where I was like, I think I might be seeing something bad.
Speaking of Attack of the Clones, fucking The frame falls into frame with an impact sound. There's another point where the frame turns around like a spinning door. The frame drives away like a race car with race car sound effects. Like, it's like the Simpsons joke where they add star wipes to everything. There's crazy transitions in this to the degree that there are montages of trippy colors and sound. Like, Abe, you're the titular other Coen brother. Save this for me. Or I mean, Daniel, I'm not barring you from. What did the fucking montages of shit mean? The colors and sound shit.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. But here's the thing, is that it's all just, like, the animations seem to be, like, they're obviously very psychedelic, and it's very akin to, like, Big Lebowski's sequences, right? And
That's the closest thing, yeah.
And we're talking about this cartoonish aspect. Like, go back and watch Raising Arizona. It's not that far from it. You know, even the Texan accent and Jamie's speech patterns, like, they're very like all those characters.
Oh, she's Nick Cage from
right,
for sure.
And
same
he
slot.
could not dial it in. And there's something about the Coen brothers when they made stuff like this, because they definitely did Looney Tunes several times over their career. It was like, even when it wasn't deserving of it, they would be like, just throw a Looney Tunes moment in there where it's like chaotic and cartoonish. It's very much in their DNA, and so it doesn't feel out of place, but it always felt elevated. Like, it always felt like it wasn't just doing, I guess, what Spielberg does in like Sugarland Express or something like that, where it's just like, oh, you want to make Looney Tunes, but live action. They never really stooped that low, even though I don't feel that that's like stooping. It just feels like that for them because they've always been this other very like ponderous kind of deal. And then here they're doing like, you know, like, and then a guy gets out and, you know, like his feet will run around. It's like, I don't know. It's just like too much.
It's closer to, like Dan's opened my eyes, it's closer to a classic 90s road trip sex comedy, because Jamie is, and that's my blind spot potentially, is Jamie's basically analogous to the dude character who every single line is about getting laid. Jamie even says that her project this summer is to get married and to loosen up and get laid.
Right, super bad.
So it's almost like a callback to Porky's and shit, right? But with let's just flip the gender and make it a lesbian movie with dildo machines and whatnot. So and that's allowed. Yeah.
There is there is part of me that thinks if this was not attached to a Coen brother, it didn't have the high profile aura of this is the second of two solo Coen brothers projects. If it was just like a moderately released indie lesbian sex road trip movie with some crazy
quirky
cameos and some quirks, I think that a lot of reviews would be like, yeah, it's not perfect. You could see it's clearly influenced by the Coen brothers, but it's fun, and we so rarely get lesbian queer rom-com coming of age stories. So yeah, I'll give it a
more like
B- or whatever. But the fact that it is Ethan Coen is like, this is what you did when the leash comes off.
You're going to transition from sequence to sequence with a gif of a pizza doing like a fractal regression where the pepperonis become the Democratic and Republican Party
that
symbols.
One was a bridge too far, sir.
What a stand.
It's very funny, Michael, that you were relying on Abe to explain the trippy interstitial sequences with hippie Miley Cyrus as the plaster queen. Because I was also, as I'm watching this movie, was like, well, I don't get this, but Abe will tell me what it means.
Totally. We call him Dr. Movies on this network.
I mean, I think it's actually a callback to like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. You know, you guys seen that one?
No.
I just know it as like an important film. Like by
John
reputation.
Waters. You seen any John Waters movies?
No,
they do shit like that.
You know why? Because there's one where someone eats dog shit, and I keep forgetting which one, and it's like Russian roulette. I don't want to see that.
It's actually all of them. There's someone in front of camera eats an entire dog turd.
That's his Hitchcock. flourish.
This John Waters baby. No, it's just like it was like a 60s trope that was of this type movie ilk, like that they would just do this for no reason because that was at the time the thing you'd do. I think it's a throwback to that, but it's so like updated that it almost feels like an entirely different thing.
It's unique. It's a unique blend in some way.
It's unique. I feel like the farther and farther you get away from that decade, the less clear and accessible your montages are. Not that anyone should ever stop stealing from the greats, I guess, but like as an audience member, when I see that scene, Abe, you can explain to me that it's an homage to Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill. But as an audience member, before talking to Dr. Movie, I'm like, I didn't see Faster, Pussycat. I don't know what's happening.
That's the out of touchness that I think that we are revealing that they would kind of hold back from each other. I think they would be like, this is my, headcanon, is that the Coen brothers are like sitting down and they're like, oh, we should do this. And it's like, they're a bunch of film school nerds. And they're like, yeah, but are people going to get that? And that will always have that edit question that is in the room. And they would just cut it because half of them would disagree slightly.
Or we'll generate a new thing to go there.
Yeah, because if you have ever written with a partner, dear reader, it's almost always
easier
like
to go, well, let's just come up with a new idea we're both happy with.
Right, exactly. Because ideas are so cheap that you almost ideally want to go with the answer that is 100% from both people who think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And so here we are, and he's, the DNA of Trisha Cook is there. So it's like there's a lot of conversations that are being had. The room is completely different. So I'm sure that's what's happening here, or it feels like that's what's happening here.
And I just think, man, that's why they're my favorite of all time. Coen is such a specific acquired bag of tricks that's so unique to them that I feel like you have to nail it exactly. Close is not good enough. It's like Kurt Vonnegut. You could read something that's close to Kurt Vonnegut and be like, well, that's pretty like maudlin and cheesy. But when Kurt Vonnegut does it, it's poignant and touching because he's so good. It's just like a skill level. So I just want to read a couple lines that to me sound like someone trying to be the Coen brothers rather than the thing. I've had it with love. I know bards and troubadours are high on it, but I don't believe it's relevant to the modern lesbian of the 20th, soon to be 21st century. And then the other one, I'm not certain, honey darling, you have ever reached deep inside any orifice to scoop out your soul and fling it shamelessly at another human being and humiliate yourself and grovel and weep and feel your ego disintegrate, otherwise known as the glory of love. To me, that sounds like me trying to write a Cormac McCarthy sentence as best as I can.
Yeah, there is that.
I wonder, it would be a fun experiment that would be impossible to pull off, but I wonder if I would like that line better if it was in an actual Coen Brothers movie and not...
Right, that's the thing.
A Coen Brother movie.
That's why I feel like this is more like a Rorschach test.
I mean, I could hear Lady Macbeth saying that line. That would work.
That would be a fun experiment. Like a final lightning round game we could play is just read lines and then you tell me if it's from Drive Away Dolls or Macbeth. See if you
No, you remember out damn spot like someone dragging Dale spaghetti on my tits.
Yates sand. That's Polonius. Polonius ate sand. I did really like the newspaper headline joke at the end because it has two. It's got a topper. The headline on the newspaper that we see at the end is "Senator shot outside lesbian bar. Channel was carrying a human head, comma, plaster penises. I can explain.
I can explain, God.
That's fantastic.
So it had moments. I think the acting was all good. It's still like you said, the Coen brothers are good.
I think Qualley, who played Jamie, I think
Margaret.
She is
Margaret Qualley,
a very talented actress, and I think she really went for it in this movie. She did a thing. She did a voice. She has a physicality. She is this character 100% of the time, and it's a big cartoon character. It's a huge choice. There's a scene of her fucking herself with a dildo, and she she vibrates like you cast a child in a play and you try to explain to the child how to have an orgasm and what it looks and feels like, and then the child like did a really big choice. And it's not actually what an orgasm looks like. That is what she's like. Her whole body is shaking in a weird way, and she's
it's
like,
also physically hard to vibrate that much. She looks like a coin-operated chair at the airport.
yeah, she's
Extreme.
By the way, both of those remarkably correct and weird ways to describe,
yes,
but like amazingly correct.
I think she very expertly hits exactly as big as Nick Cage is in Raising Arizona. Like,
I agree
it
with
does
you.
feel like she got that assignment.
I think that's 100% right, and I don't want to come down completely on it. It seems like I'm very team Joel, and I think we can address that later because spoilers, I'm not firmly team Joel, but I think you can do the when you do a big character like that, you have to have complete faith in your director that they're going to make it work in the reality of their film. Like there's so much. Soren and I talk about this a lot because we're not actors or directors, so we feel like we can weigh in. But there's you as an actor for the brief time that both of us were on camera performers. You have to have so much faith and trust in your director because they're the ones with the vision and they're the ones who can see what you're doing and they're the ones who will know where you need to calibrate your performance, what's too big, what's too small. And because almost nothing feels supernatural when you're acting on set in front of a camera. It's all very unnatural. So it rarely feels as good and as real as when you're doing a play, for example, or a live sketch, a live anything.
Yeah. And most actors can go, so do you want it grounded all at 0% all the way to 100 where I'm screaming and it's wacky? And any of those choices could be the appropriate tool for the situation. Someone has to tell you what we're going for here.
Exactly. And I when you see an actor that you know is good doing a really bad job in a movie and it seems like, did this person just like take crazy pills or they need to fire their agent? And it's like, no, I think there's a million bad takes and a million great takes from every actor in every movie. And the difference, what separates bad from good is 99% of the time the decisions of the direction of the director and maybe the editing. I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass here.
Well, again, see the Star Wars prequels, famously, a bunch of great actors come across as soulless in that, and it's a byproduct of the process that they used to film it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like with Qualley in this movie, she was like, this is a Coen Brother movie. I wanted to work with as many Coens as I can, and this is my shot at an iconic Raising Arizona type thing. I'm really gonna go for it. I'm gonna do my whole thing, and I'm gonna trust that it's gonna work. And I just don't think it worked in this movie.
Yeah, I think it's because of what's surrounding it. To be honest, it's not the performance, and I think the performance is well directed too. Like I think that the pacing. I think you kind of threw away the idea of editing, but that's a lot of like directors' work in regards to what we're talking about here, right? Like it's only one person usually on set or whomever they've talked to about this has their eye on the concept of like, okay, so this shot goes to this shot and then this scene goes to this scene and the space between, so to speak, like the negative space that is the audience's mind, that's what you're trying to foster or tailor, right?
Yeah.
And so a good director knows exactly when their beats are, and less good directors don't know what they're doing or haven't thought about that problem. So this feels like Ethan unrestrained, and that's not great, because usually even directors who are like bombastic and make choices that feel like insane, like like what Boots Riley, is that his name?
Yeah.
And like there's a few directors recently, like even back in the day we would argue Tarantino or Wes Anderson and stuff like that, they still kind of had their hand on the knob. This feels like the knob is just set to 11 and just let it ride, baby. And anytime you like lay down things like
Much
carpet over an
Jamie
entire
with the
movie.
Sibian.
Yeah. Anytime you lay down kind of a strategy like that, especially with pacing, it'll feel like the equivalent of why we love and also why we are like, what's up with that with like Michael Bay movies, right? It's always something where it's so aggressively one thing all the time that you're just like, just give me a fucking break, you know? Like, and I think that the Coen brothers usually show that restraint, usually show the ability to be like, I'm going to have like a less active or, you know, more boring moment so that I can have the dynamics of like an exciting moment. Here it's just like bam, 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 bam. The pacing is so
and if you don't
off the charts.
nail that, you overshoot and end up in like theater kid territory where we're
Yeah.
like, we get it. You're a goofball. Like, please stop.
Right. And so I think it really is, even though her performance, because I think like you take any line that she does, any, you know, mannerism, any
Great
like
facial
blocking
control.
choice.
Yeah, there's little moments all throughout that are impressive.
All that stuff is like almost perfect. It's just everything around it. Everyone's vying to do that. It's almost like everyone knows they're in a Coen Brothers movie.
Right.
Yeah, Hail Caesar felt like that in some moments
It
as
did.
well. And maybe it's our consciousness altering as we imbibe it, but it still had. I know. How about that Pedro Pascal, huh? We haven't even touched that.
He's just there. Yeah.
Well, it's almost an equally broad. First of all, I love that he's ubiquitous now. I love seeing him in everything. I just like his face.
I think he rules.
Yeah, he rules. But it's also the sketchiest. I think, I don't know if he's hosted SNL, and if he has, I didn't see it. But I think it's the sketchiest I've ever seen him. Is this? It's like broad Spanish accent, like stop right there, waiter.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Here's can I do a brief tangent about Pedro Pascal?
Please.
Just because I know you love him and you. It's inescapable. He has hosted SNL. It's a very funny episode. It's very silly. He breaks a lot because he's just having such a good time. There's one sketch where he plays a man who fell into a coma, and he suddenly wakes up from his coma, and his wife and his best friend and his sister are there, and he is inexplicably talking like that. Allah. Who are you? Who am I? What am I doing here? Let's put a pin in that. It's like a very silly voice, and like that's the entire sketch, is that he has a really silly voice and doesn't remember who he is and doesn't remember his wife.
Fully a performance
that is like
thing.
Start to finish, that's the sketch, and it's one of my favorites. And I have a few friends that work at SNL, and I reached out to them to just say like, hey, I really loved this sketch. It was so fun. It was so silly. It seemed like it came out of nowhere. And they were like, that was just Pedro. That is what he came to the show with. It's a voice that he does walking around his house. It's just like a thing that he likes doing.
It's his dog's voice that he
it's so
to do.
Let it ride.
It's so charming to me. It makes it so much better of a sketch. Because like, who can't relate to that idea of just like, this is the voice I use when I clean my room. You know, we all have our at-home characters.
Talking to your dog or whatnot.
And I gotta ask before I forget, speaking of Boots Riley, I ask everyone, Dan, have you seen I'm a Virgo?
No, I haven't.
Everyone freaking watch that. It's the best show of the last couple of years. Yeah, on Amazon.
Okay.
Boots Riley's a genius. Anyway.
I'm getting more and more uncomfortable with the fact that Amazon is making stuff that I really like.
I know.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable. Apple too. I'm a big Apple guy because I like sci-fi.
Make the best
this is real rough.
I have one thought on Pedro Pascal that I was like, this. I don't know. Did this ding for either of you? Which is that in the so he's terrified. In his scene, he's waiting with a briefcase for someone, and then he's chased by a waiter into an alley, and then stabbed in the neck with a bottle opener, and then a pen, and then it's weird to me that this was decided on set. Is then he's like, yeah, and then I want you, waiter, to take your thumbs and place them in his eyes.
Yeah, Game of Thrones style.
And it's just reprising the role as Oberyn Martell. So like, if you had to ask me, hey, if someone's gonna get like their eyes gouged out, what actor am I talking about?
Yeah.
Of literally the last few generations, I'm like, probably Pedro Pascal.
Right. Who have I seen? Who do I know who can really do that well?
It's
just the one guy. It's only him.
It's only him. And I'm sure he thought about that when he was like, oh, okay, that's where we're going to go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then he's probably like, this is like how I got my start, getting my eyes gouged out.
It's so, I feel like if I'm on, because you're Pedro Pascal, you're on set for maybe 2 days for this movie. It's a glorified cameo that he has. And he just gets his eyes
huge in the
gouged
poster,
out.
by the way.
Yes.
Really misleading.
He just has this very brutal attack scene and gets his eyes gouged out. And if I'm Pedro doing that scene, I'm thinking, oh, are the Coen brothers doing like a scary movie type thing where they do a million references to other pieces of pop culture?
Is this a no country?
Nah, man.
Am I in a no country?
It's just this. There's one weird Game of Thrones Easter egg and then nothing else like it.
Right, it's by far the most violent offer in the movie. Yeah,
just Ethan Coen just stopping by his trailer, going like, "Remember in Game of Thrones, you were
Trisha, call me back
when you were the Martell boy.
Yeah,
that was great.
Would you? Oh, we loved that. That like shocked my whole house. Would you do it for me?
HBO's great.
Will you just do it one time?
Just
like
one
asking
time.
your favorite artist to do, like asking Bruce to play Born to Run at your house. It's like, could you just do Game of Thrones real quick? We're not filming. Could you just do it?
Well, that's what the Goons felt like to me. Was like, we'll throw 15% of Fargo on as icing,
right?
Because not only that, but they do this weird thing that I've rarely seen, where they do the same scene twice in a row. They do the Goons. One, the talkative one, lecturing the other one about how he needs to understand people and open up and be more authentic. Then they cut to Jamie and what's her name? Mariana?
I think it's in my mind, it's Gertrude, because I feel like they gave her like a very repressed name.
I have it in the Marion.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Marion the librarian.
Jamie giving Marion the same lecture.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was weird. But it does yield some very excellent dialogue. Again, like with Curly, well, we're here. Okay, who are you? The car, the Dodge Aries, What are you, a minor bird? I'm Curly. I understand that.
I understand that. Yeah.
So, like, we haven't talked about Flint, and I do like Flint quite a bit. Who's the one who needs to open up?
Yeah, I do. I mean, those goons.
Yeah,
they would be.
Classic Coen goons.
They're classic Coen goons, so much so that because they're not the shorter fella, the more talkative one. I've seen in a million things. His name escapes me. The taller one, I don't know that I've ever known his name.
Slotnick?
But
maybe I don't know.
They're both very good.
Yeah,
and
Joey
I'm
Slotnick.
sure they're on set and they're like, "What a coup for us! We're like the funny, talkative goons in a Coen Brothers movie. That's enough." Enough data exists that like that's a thing. That's a type of character to be is a quirky goon in a Coen Brothers movie. And how lucky for us, we're the goons. We're not big names or anything. We're these goons, and we're doing dialogue that definitely sounds and feels like it's goons from a Coen Brothers movie.
We're bantering. We got these long scenes that are uncut, so we have to like Neil Simon this shit. Yeah, for sure.
And it must be such a bummer to be like, oh. It's not really a Coen Brothers movie, and no one likes it as much.
Good. It's not great.
Yeah.
It's good. I have a question, a legitimate story question, which is like, so kind of in the climax sequences, there, or it's slightly before, the duo of criminals we're talking about, like basically meet with they're now a trio. They've met back together, and they have the drive-away dolls tied up, and then Flint goes nuts and shoots the other two.
Oh, I hope you're asking what I was going to ask. Yeah,
I'm most definitely am. The question is that they're having an argument, Flint and Joey or whatever.
I can't believe I pulled that, by the way. John,
that's awesome.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Great work.
They're talking about, and from what I gather, he has anger over them jerking each other off to stay awake on the road.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, totally. And him
That's
saying
it.
that it doesn't mean anything. It's just exploring, and him being like, don't even talk about this.
Right.
Yeah.
So Flint was like, I can't live with myself because I
Well,
got jerked
so
off or
that
jerked
makes
off
sense
someone.
to me. That didn't bump me. Like,
didn't
I totally
bother
get
me.
it as a bit. It fits the sex comedy queer vibe, but
It's
like,
true.
what bothered me is then he flips out, he shoots Slotnick, and then he shoots the chief too, or the head goon, whatever.
Coleman Domingo.
Yeah, and then he puts the gun in Coleman Domingo's hand. So
Yes.
what is the fake scenario that he thought the frame up was going to be that Coleman Domingo shot himself in the chest 3 times?
Yeah.
That
It's not.
bothered me.
It was. If the movie, I know this is going to sound silly, but if the movie was just a bit bigger and a bit wackier and a bit dumber, that would have been a very funny dumb guy move.
Yeah.
But it was just a few ass hairs short of the ridiculousness, because the idea of a goon being so over the top stupid that he thinks he could sell this as a murder-suicide
Right.
despite
Is great.
overwhelming evidence. That's fun. That's a funny bit.
But
in this movie,
he would have had a little line or something. It wasn't played as a joke. That's
right,
the problem.
and he, from what we've seen in the movie, is not that stupid. He's not cartoonishly stupid
I
enough
agree,
to think that would work.
Yeah, even the smart characters who fuck up all the time, like I'm looking at Walter from Big Lebowski, like it's not incredulous. Like you can see where he doesn't quite meet up with reality, and they almost painstakingly craft that like narrative out of him in the previous scenes. In this, it's just like he's just kind of a like seemingly lightly conservative, very milquetoast and very kind of restrained dude, and that's kind of all we get. Like I don't know. I'm not. I agree with you entirely, and I just think that like if there was a little bit more attention paid to his like stupidity, I think that joke would have nailed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun enough to watch. I wouldn't like discourage people from watching it. But yeah, the last thing I really have to say is that it bothered me that they find a head with packed in dry ice, and then they keep it fresh by filling it with normal ice from hotels that they stay at. That shit would rot so bad. Like, that is not how that works. It has to be dry ice. It works very differently than normal ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I do.
That's my wrap-up comment, only because we have 7 minutes left in the meeting, but we can re-up if
No,
more.
I think just very quickly to address it, because the point of this, to bring it up, was to compare what happens when the duo splits, and I think very unsatisfyingly we don't have enough information. I think it's insane to compare Drive-Away Dolls as Ethan's contribution to the solo world against
exactly
William Shakespeare's Joel Coen's Macbeth starring Denzel Washington,
which obviously is already fully scripted and right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need more to really see, 2 points to make a line, and even at that, that's not going to necessarily.
Yeah,
it's not. You can't put that up against the Coen Brothers filmography.
No, but if this is a sign of here's where I'll flip. If this is a sign of where things are headed, if they never reunite again, and Ethan does queer screwball comedies that aren't perfect, and Joel doubles down on the most serious thing a filmmaker can do, which is Shakespearean tragedies, I'm gonna go Team Ethan all the way.
And
I'm way more interested in that.
Monolithic black and white with Willem Dafoe making pimp jokes. Yeah. Yeah, that was great, man. Best beheading I think I've seen on film. Like the best handling of a behead. Anyway, all right. Abe, do you have any closing comments on Drive-Away Dolls?
No, I think we've said everything that we need to say. Love the Coen Brothers
little
still.
Bonus CBB for y'all. Thank you for making it happen, Dan.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Do you have any art, issue, person, thing, noun, or adjective you want to drive attention toward?
Yeah, I've been. Well, can I plug your book or no? Is your book available to be plugged?
Yeah, go for it. It's in the shop, the Small Beans shop on our Patreon.
I am. What am I at now? I'm in the elevator. I'm about 35% through the book at this point. It's called The Climb. It's by Michael Swaim.
You're insane.
It's my morning read. I'm really enjoying it very much. I think everyone should check it out. It's very funny. It's very interesting. It's like I always feel when I see Unchained Michael Swaim art. It's I can't see the strings. I can with a lot of writers. I can see how things work. I know how the puppets move, but this is one of those things where I'm just like, no, I don't know how he did it. I don't know where it comes from. It's a magic trick that I can't reverse engineer, and it's just
High
great.
Praise. Ayahuasca, my friend.
Ayahuasca, my friend. And there'll be
I'm so excited you're reading it.
There'll be a audiobook coming out soon.
Yep, I'm 60% done recording the audiobook version, which I know a lot of people are waiting for.
Hell
So
yeah.
make sure to stop by the Small Beans Patreon and the shop when that comes out. You can buy the book there, and when the audiobook comes out, make sure to buy it 4 times.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
This was a genuine pleasure, Daniel, as always.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The thing says your call ends in 2 minutes. So,
Yep.
Baba Booey, 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 Baba Booey.
No, don't let him hang up. Catch that kid. Oh, he's skateboarding away all cool. Damn it.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you.